Hi everyone, I'm Stay from Stay Heavy Studios. Today, I want to talk to you about something a little bit technical. A major part of cinematography is the canvas on which we display our film. When referring to film, aspect ratio is the width by the height of the image. Simple enough, right? Not quite. To really get to know our stuff about aspect ratio, we gotta go all the way back to the 1890s when Eastman Kodak starts mass producing flexible film. Edison's lab took a particular interest in this film and developed the kinetoscope. This device shot an image 4 perforations high on 35mm Kodak film, resulting in an image that was 0.95 inches wide by 0.735 inches high, a 4:3 image. 4:3, or 1.33, was declared the standard for the US film industry by the Motion Picture Patent Company in 1909. That standard stuck until 1929, when synchronized audio was introduced. This was recorded in a strip along the side of the film, leaving a smaller space for the image to fit. In 1932, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences fixed this. The new standard was to mask off the image to a 1.37 ratio, almost indistinguishable from the previous 1.33 ratio. This was called the Academy ratio. After World War II, television saw a rise in popularity as the baby boom brought more families out into the suburbs. Film attendance suffered, and major studios started selling off their film libraries. RKO was the first to sell their entire library before being bought out. Major film studios needed to find something that TV couldn't show audiences, and fast. In the late 1930s, Cinerama was introduced in its massive 2.59 glory. This system used 3 35mm cameras with 3 27mm lenses exposing 35mm film at 6 perforations high, resulting in a 147-degree field of view. Because of its extremely wide angle and expensive setup, this process was only ever used on 2 dramatic films. In April 1953, Shane was released by Paramount as the first flat widescreen film. Originally shot in the Academy ratio, the top and bottom of the image were cropped to produce a 1.66 ratio. This wasn't ideal though, as it made the film grain more apparent. In response to Cinerama and widescreen, 20th Century Fox introduced CinemaScope, which used anamorphic lenses to squish the image to a 2:1 ratio, delivered in 2.35. CinemaScope was a hit. Every major studio rushed to adopt the much simpler process, except for Paramount. Instead, they developed VistaVision, which was 35mm film shot in its side at 8 perforations wide, then reprinted back on 35mm in the proper orientation, resulting in much smaller visible grain. Yet another widescreen format to come out in the 50s was Todd AO, which developed an even larger 70mm format. This was expensive, but made for near grainless images. In 1959, Ben-Hur was released. This film was shot on the 70mm MGM65 and presented in 2.76, the widest aspect ratio to date. Panavision, who was making anamorphic lenses for cameras and projectors since the popularity of CinemaScope, turned this camera into the Super Panavision 70. This camera used standard spherical lenses and was used to shoot Lawrence of Arabia, which went on to win Best Cinematography in 1962. So, where in all this does 16:9 or 1.78 come in? Well, once again, the television industry helped direct the film industry. When plans for the HDTV standard were being drawn up, Kearns H. Powers suggested 16:9 as a compromise between 1.33 and 2.35, the two most common extremes in aspect ratio. This became the standard for all video production to this day, from standard definition widescreen to HD 1080p, all the way up to 4K Ultra HD. So now that we know about aspect ratio, which is best? That's up to you to decide, as each presents the audience with a vastly different viewing experience. Thanks again for watching. I'm Stay with Stay Heavy Studios. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more.